you won't have a chance to change your minds later, because there'll be no way to get out.
So you've come back for more. Well, let's complete level 2 together. If you're new here, you can always watch part 1 and 2, which I'll link up here. Now, let's begin. The Noppera-bō, or Faceless Ghost, is a Japanese yokai that looks like a human but has no face. They usually appear to the victim as someone they know before erasing their facial features to scare them. They are known to be mischievous rather than malevolent. A favorite game of the Noppera-bō is to work in teams, where one of them scares a victim who then flees and finds another person walking late at night. The victim frantically relates their story to the stranger until they reveal that they too are a Noppera-bō. One interesting story featuring this yokai is the Noppera-bō and the koi pond. The story begins with a lazy fisherman who decides to fish in the imperial koi ponds near the Heian-Kiro Palace. Despite being warned by his wife about the pond being sacred and near a graveyard, the fisherman goes anyways. On his way to the pond, he is warned by another fisherman not to go, but again, he stubbornly ignores the warning. Once at the spot, he is met by a beautiful young woman who also begins to plead with him not to fish in the pond. Just as before, he ignores the advice when to his horror, she begins to wipe off her face. Terrified, he rushes home to hide. After arriving, he is confronted by what seems to be his wife, who chastises him for his wickedness. His terror builds to a breaking point when she begins to wipe off her face as well. Just like all ancient stories, there's a lesson to be learned here. Perhaps heed the warnings and don't fool around with things beyond your understanding. One interesting fact I came across is that in a lot of stories, the Noppera-bō doesn't actually exist, but are really the disguise of other yokai, including the Mojina or a fox kitsune. This next one is another Japanese yokai known as Ubume. Translated as birth-giving woman, throughout folk stories and literature, the identity and appearance of Ubume varies. However, she is most commonly depicted as the spirit of a woman who has died during childbirth. These women appear on dark and rainy nights when a passerby will see her as a normal-looking woman carrying a baby. She will typically try to give the passerby her child, then disappear. The baby then becomes increasingly heavy until it's impossible to hold. It is then revealed not to be a human child at all, but a large rock or sometimes a bundle of leaves. These tragic spirits wander the areas near where they died, seeking aid from the living that they cannot provide for themselves. She'll enter shops or homes to try to purchase food, clothes, or sweets for her still living child. In place of money, she pays with a handful of dead leaves. These ghosts also try to lead humans to where the baby is hidden so that it can be either taken to its relatives or adopted by another person. Minyak literally means oily man in Malay. According to Malay legends, Minyak is a creature that abducts young women by night. Supposedly, the creature is able to climb walls and grab victims, but evade capture due to its slippery coating. According to some folklorists, the Minyak has also been described as appearing naked or wearing a black pair of swimming trunks. A number of stories describes the Minyak as a that only targets virgins. The Minyak has been traditionally blamed for beginning in the 1950s. To avoid him, some young girls would borrow sweaty male clothing from a family member and wear it in their sleep. This would confuse the oily man into thinking that his victim is male and hence not attacking. According to the legend, he was once an unnamed, disabled, and hunchbacked young man living in a Malaysian village. He was often spat on and bullied by his fellow villagers, as well as getting ridiculed by young girls who lived there. He would eventually fall in love with a beautiful girl there in the village, but is deeply frustrated due to his unattractive nature. In retaliation, he decided to learn black magic and visited a local shaman in hopes of becoming handsome. Together, they summoned an evil creature who promised him a perfect and attractive appearance. However, there is always a price to pay. By night, he's cursed to transform into the Minyak. Preta is the name of a group of supernatural beings described in Buddhist and Hindu texts that continue to suffer as ghosts in the afterlife because of their insatiable degree of hunger and thirst. The traditional religions of India are based on the belief in rebirth. It is said that being reborn as a hungry ghost is the result of excessive greed in the previous life. Due to negative past karma, Pretas are afflicted with an unstoppable hunger for a particular substance or object. Traditionally, this desired substance was something disgusting or humiliating, such as human corpses or feces. Unlike demons and ghosts found in other religions, the Pretas found in Buddhism are not really considered to be frightening or malevolent spirits. Rather, Buddhists often feel pity for these beings and try to help them by offering food on special festival days. Bilocation is an alleged psychic or miraculous ability wherein an individual or object is located in two distinct places at the same time. Reports of bilocational phenomena have been made in a wide variety of historical and religious contexts, ranging from ancient Greek legends and Christian traditions to modern occultism. The history of Christianity contains many reports of miraculous bilocations. Among the earliest of these is the apparition of Our Lady of the Pillar. This is an alleged appearance of the Virgin Mary in, Kaiser Augusta, Spain, in the year 40 CE, at a time when she is believed to have been still alive and living in Jerusalem. For the next one, we will head back to Malaysia for Hantu Raya. In Malay demonology, Hantu Raya, or Raja Hantu, also known as the King of Spectres, is a type of terrestrial devil that acts as a double for a black magic practitioner. It is a spirit that is supposed to grant the owner great powers. Hantu means ghost, and Raya means great in Malay. Strangely enough, his assaults can be prevented by leaving offerings of cooked eggs for him or raw eggs for his followers. Hantu Raya is said to be the master of all ghosts and the leader of the Underworld Legion, and those who make alliances with it are considered to be very powerful. Hantu Raya is capable of materializing itself into another human being or animals. I thought this was really strange, but one of its mischievous tricks is to shapeshift into the form of its owner and sleep with his or her partners. It can also be used to perform heavy duties as commanded by its master, even to harm his enemies. It can also possess or cause death to people if so ordered. Pelesit. Alright, so this one is a lot of fun. The Pelesit is a type of familiar spirit in Malay folklore. It is generally a cricket or occasionally a grasshopper. Two rituals exist for acquiring the Pelesit, and both involve recitation of the correct incantations and biting off the tongue of a dead child. The tongue, if the rituals are done right, is actually what becomes the Pelesit. The Pelesit attack their victims by entering the person's mouth, tail first. And according to what I read, a person afflicted by the Pelesit will insanely rave about cats. By itself, the Pelesit does nothing else. However, it is often the pet of another spirit called the Polong. This is where it gets complicated. If a Pelesit enters a person's body and chirps, it is calling for the Polong, which can make the victim go insane or unconscious. A shaman cures the victim by using a specific incantation and then asking them to reveal their, quote, mother, unquote, meaning the Pelesit's owner. When not in use, its owner keeps it in a bottle, and most often the Pelesit feed on the blood from their master's fourth finger, or ring finger, every full moon. If the Pelesit is not fed, it will escape its bottle and wreak havoc on the town, especially if it's lost its master. Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, is a Hispanic-American vengeful ghost who is said to roam waterfront areas mourning her children whom she drowned. There are many variations on this 500-year-old ghost story, but the typical version starts with Maria, whose beauty was equaled only by her vanity. She uses her feminine wiles to marry a handsome, wealthy rancher and has 2 children. After a few happy years, the rancher takes to roaming the prairies, ignoring her while she is home, but lavishing attention on the children. One day, while walking near the river with the children, Maria sees her husband with a wealthy lady and in a fit of rage throws her children into the river. But when they disappear into the water, she's seized by regret. She runs along the bank of the river, arms outstretched, in a futile attempt to get them back. The inconsolable Maria then drowns herself, or dies of grief depending on who's doing the telling, and is buried by the villagers the next morning. That night, they hear crying down by the river.
Where are my children?
When the curious go to look, they see a woman in a long white robe, just like Maria's burial dress, walking up and down the riverbank. Rechristened Llorona from that day on, she's still sighted near lakes, oceans, and other bodies of water, night after dark night. The Mary Celeste. On November 7th of 1872, the 282-ton brigantine Mary Celeste set sail from New York Harbor on its way to Genoa, Italy. On board were the ship's captain, Benjamin S. Briggs, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, along with 8 crew members. Less than a month later, on December 5th, a passing British ship called De Gratia spotted the Mary Celeste at full sail and adrift about 400 miles east of the Azores, with no sign of the captain, his family, or any of the crew. Captain David Morehouse of the De Gratia sent a boarding party to the ship. Below deck, the ship's charts had been tossed about and the crewmen's belongings were still in their quarters. The ship's only lifeboat was missing and one of its 2 pumps had been disassembled. 3.5 feet of water was sloshing in the ship's bottom, though the cargo of 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol was largely intact. There was a 6-month supply of food and water, but not a soul to consume it. From this lost ship arose one of the most confounding maritime mysteries to date. What happened to the Mary Celeste? Theories range from mutiny or pirates to ergot poisoning, giant sea monsters, and even aliens, but none of these theories have ever been proven to be true. My 2 favorite theories that I've read so far were the ideas of rats below deck that had gotten into the raw alcohol and had gone poisonously drunk and raving mad, chasing the crew onto the lifeboats and dove in after them to sink the ship. And one theory about an army of crabs that came up from the seas to attack the ships. They apparently killed and dragged everyone on board down to the depths of the sea. This brings us to the end of Tier 2. Now, this will be the last of the Paranormal Iceberg videos for a little while, as I have a project I'm working on that I'm very excited about. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't, and I also have a donation link in the description if you're so inclined. If you need something else to watch, why not consider watching this video? Thanks, everybody. Good night.
The power in the curse of the crying woman.
Don't be scared, it's just me.